Oh, and this is the second hour of Mind Shifters Radio. I didn't even do that part.
It is.
And today, Thursday, August the 17th, 2023. And our call-in number is 563-999-3581. And press 1. So welcome, Michael.
Thank you, dear heart, and welcome, everybody. Delighted that you're here and extending love in Dr. Tim's direction. He's really opened up the space for everybody to offer him support for the work he's been doing around family issues. So we definitely hold the space for that. And for the surgical procedures going through next week, we just hold the space that the surgeon's hands and heart and mind are all fully aligned with the perfect outcome and perfect function. And rocking on. So holding space for you, Dr. Tim. Cherish you. And beyond that, let's just check and see if we've got anything happening in the chat room or anything happening in the phone queue. Have you got your mute button on, sweetie?
You could hear me, right?
There you go. Well, it was my turn yesterday, so it's your turn today.
No, it's all quiet. There's nothing going on, and no hands up. Got several people out there, and welcome. So.
Cool. Well, we started to talk the other day about the another level of looking into the power person dynamic from the workshop. Excuse me just a second. My computer just skipped. From the workshop Codependence to Interdependence, and recognizing that bottom line power person dynamic is, I would offer literally, when you look at how stressed people are today, it is literally running the whole world. It is running most family systems. It is definitely running medical systems. It's running churches. It's running governments. It's running businesses, families, and it's time to take a step back and wake up from that dynamic running our lives. There are three things that happen in order to install a power person dynamic in someone's life, and that power person dynamic is usually an interaction, comes from an interaction between a parent and a child, though not always. It can be your big brother, your big sister, or even your little brother, your little sister. It can be, the neighbor. It can be any number of different people, but generally it is a parent. And the three things that occur to install that power person dynamic is, one, that the power person was not functioning as love, was literally not functioning as a human being, and therefore was not functioning in just and fair behavior. And, there are really two different types of power person dynamics we're going to look at. One of them involves the messages you accepted from an individual that you perceived as an authority, or that someone had more control over your life than you did. So that's the second factor. One, they were not functioning as love, not behaving out of just and fair behavior. They had more power over your life than they did. And the third is that, and again, it's usually a child's mind, though not always, this can happen with adults as well, but the child perceives the event as survival. And the survival could be psychological, financial, emotional, not just physical survival. So that's a power person, what we'll call an active power person dynamic. And then there is what we could call, and I'm actually still working this out to make sure it's accurate. So it's subject to update, subject to deeper insight. But the second dynamic that I'm incorporating, this is a new piece of the puzzle in terms of power persons and codependence, is what we'll call a passive power person dynamic. So it doesn't involve a message received from a person directly, such as we were just talking about with the, the parent type of thing. But it's a message that is activated from within, and oftentimes I think it is probably an inherited power person dynamic, but it's brought on not from a specific message from that person in authority, but a situation. And that situation resonates and or activates a limiting conclusion and a behavior that's reached in one's own mind in response to that situation. An example might be, let's say an emergency occurs, and the internal response in that individual's mind might be due to inexperience, a lack of knowledge, unpreparedness, but that individual accepts an unreasonable internal conclusion about themselves, such as, I'm incompetent in emergencies. So that's going to kind of stand in the same place as an active power person dynamic, but it's passively on oneself. But when under stress, the behaviors and thought disorders involved in it are going to still take over and govern a person's mind. And the thing that determines whether or not, which type of behavior is going to be involved, because there are behaviors attached to that power person dynamic. And there are basically three behaviors. And the thing that determines which behavior is going to be keyed into the automatic decision system and force behavior. Oftentimes you say to somebody, why did you do that? I don't know. I didn't want to do that. I tried to resist it. I tried to stop myself from doing it. I couldn't help myself. Sometimes words I say, I couldn't help myself. This is where a power person dynamic is activated by a level of stress. And remember that, and I think you can search the world over and you won't find this piece of information. You'll hear all kinds of people talking about stress and stress management and stop and breathe or count to 10 and all that stuff. But how is stress created? You hear people talking about stressful situations all the time. There is no such thing as a stressful situation. Stress is created by the setting of a goal or the activation of a goal. And when I say activation, I mean there are literally stored within our structure millions of goals. Maybe uncountable numbers of goals that have been generationally implanted, and when they're activated, they take over and create stress. And because those goals don't come from an act of will, they tend to be out of harmony with current circumstances, and they tend to elicit behaviors, feelings, perceptions that are inappropriate to what's going on. Stress is created by the setting or the activation of a goal in the mind. Now, why that's important is once you understand that, and you understand the forgiveness process, the reality management process, you always have at your fingertips a way to reduce your stress. And what skips people from decent behavior to outrageous power person behavior is the level of stress that they're under. So again, when there's little or no stress, people will do whatever they did to get along with their power person. When stress starts to build, the automatic decision system will kick into a new level, and people will do what they did to resist and survive with their power person. When someone becomes ultra stressed, then the automatic decision kicks in and forces them to do behaviors that their power person did to them that they hated the most. And my offering is that's what runs the world. And the importance of understanding the forgiveness process in there is that if you manage your mind, this, the mind goal management from the workshop, Getting the Stress You Need, is really important here. The forgiveness reality management worksheet. You notice the core of the forgiveness process is about canceling goals. What does canceling the goal do? It reduces your stress. When you reduce your stress by collapse the constructs of the mind, you give access to whole new parts of the mind, and you refrain from getting into that ultra stress state where power person dynamics kick in, which are usually pretty crazy, ultra stressed, invariably across the board. Now, I can remember one workshop we did down in South Florida. It was a man that had been sober. He was an AA person. He'd been sober for about 30 years. He had a very large online AA community. And he invited us to come in and present. So I presented the codependence workshop. And afterward, he said, well, that's, Michael, this is just not correct. So what do you mean? It's absolutely right down the line. No. When I was a kid, my father abused me beyond all measure. I was beaten and hit every day of my childhood. And I have never hit my son. I said, well, I congratulate you on the fact that you had enough willpower to refrain from being abusive with your son. But how much time do you spend trying to control your fists? And I could have bowled him over with a feather, because he never thought of the fact that he was constantly having to refrain from lashing out at people physically and hitting them, which is exactly what his power person did. It was exactly what his whole power person dynamic was about being hit. So yeah, he had the willpower not to hit, but it was still going on in his mind, even though he had the ability to refrain from acting on it. Now that's a nice level of willpower to have, or perhaps self-control. My offering would be, a better option is you keep your stress at manageable levels, at lower levels, so you don't have to kick into that power person behavior to that level of energy. So if you're continuously managing your mind and managing your goals, then that level where you do what your power person did to you that you hated the most never comes up to the level where it can drive behavior. So once you step into dealing with power person dynamics, it can be very helpful to name who your power person is in any given situation. And when the stress is up and the chips are down, whose behavior do you replicate in response to that state of elevated stress? That's how you determine in any given situation who your power person is. For most people, they have many power persons, especially if they came up in a culture that was very controlling. And so you can have, let's say, around your financial life, mom might be your power person. Around your romantic relationships, dad might be your power person. When it comes to interacting with friends, big brother might be, or friends and family might be your power person. And so recognizing and beginning to deal with that power person dynamic is really a major key in cleaning out the unconscious dynamics in the mind. Now, remember that the human mind is designed to be fueled by love. When a situation occurs or a goal activates something other than love, some form of hostility or fear, then the automatic decision system kicks in, and perceptions, decisions, and behaviors are then run or fueled by the non-being mind. And they can only reflect some form of dissociated fear or hostility-based content that is stored in this carbon-based memory system. Remember, if you took your body to a chemist, a physicist, a lab, and said, break it down and tell me what it's made of, they'd tell you that the base element of your structure, of all of us, we are carbon-based beings. And you might remember that in the ancient teachings, they talked about this thing that went against us functioning as love, living in the mind that we're designed to live in, the mind of love, or in the ancient teachings, and there's nothing religious about this, was called the mind of Christ. You're designed, you and I don't care if you're the toughest guy in New York City on the corner block, your mind is designed to function best from love. I don't care if you're the middle of a criminal enterprise. Your mind is designed to function based in love. And if it's not fueled by love, then the option of selecting something different than what's already stored in carbon-based memory is eradicated. So there's this mind of Christ, and obviously if there was something that was going to go against that, it would be good to know where it was located. And you'll notice that we live in a culture that tells us that the Antichrist is somewhere out there. This dude with the red suit, the tail, and the pitchfork is out there to get us. But what is it that goes against you functioning out of the mind of love in you? Just watch where your stress levels go and watch how you're ripped out of the ability to function out of your choice to be loving in any given situation, to function as love. So if you look at a carbon atom and then you remember the number that was assigned to the mind that goes against you living as love was 666. And if you look at a normal carbon atom, yeah, they can alter it, and there are other atomic weights involved, but basically the basic carbon atom is 6 electrons, 6 protons, 6 neutrons. And that's what, when the stress is up and the chips are down, that's what kicks carbon-based memory into generating perceptions through the automatic decision system, and then come up with all kinds of pseudo-solutions. You know, I've often mentioned the number one pseudo solution. That's the one I usually focus on, because virtually everybody in the world. I mean, I'll often say if I'm doing a workshop, let's say there are 100 people in the room, and if I were to ask everybody their age, add up the numbers, and then take 5 years off of each of their ages, I could reliably predict that I now have the number of years that these people in this room have been trying to figure it out. The how, the why, the what of this, whatever this is happening. And my offering is, you will never figure it out. When you start realizing that our genetic history, our interactions with others with genetic histories, you know, when you start looking at just in 4 generations, at least according to the ancient scriptural teachings, 4 generations are stored within your structure. That means that the thoughts, the feelings, the realities of 31 lives, when you include yourself in the 4 generations, are stored within your structure. That's carbon-based memory. So every trauma, every drama, every power person dynamic of the previous 4 generations of your bloodline is stored within you. And when you realize that, and then you're interacting with someone who has 4 generations in them, even if we just count the 4, but of course, where did the previous 4 generations get their dynamics, and the previous 4 and the previous 4? And when you just count back 30 generations, if you do the math, there are over 1.6 billion people in each of our genetic structures. So if I've got the energetic patterns of 1.6 billion people interacting with the energetic patterns of the 1.6 billion people in your bloodline, how are we going to figure that out? But here's the beauty. no matter what's going on, no matter how deeply traumatized one is, no matter how deep the dynamics are that are active, you can always, instead of trying to figure it out, forgive it. How, why, what is the booby prize ultimately? So if you get stuck in that, if I could just figure this out, you're stuck in your head. And what happens is people get stuck in this dynamic, give up their human lives to become a non-human thinking, cycling information in the mind as though that's ever going to happen, ever going to resolve anything. You'll recall, you'll often heard me say that in order to heal, you've got to be out of your mind. So that's the number one solution. Number two, winning, fight. If I could just beat them. I mean, take a look in politics today and watch this power person dynamic playing out in the political arena. From one side to the other, it bounces back and forth, the fight, the winning. I just want to beat them. And so when humans that are designed to function as love buy into that pseudo-solution, I got to win, then one gives up one's life to become a non-human attacking. Then, of course, there's the Greek solution of forgiving them or myself or the situation, whatever. Remember, never forgive anyone for anything. That whole story is a false Greek idea. If you choose to let someone off the hook, please pardon them. That's a nice thing to do, but that's not forgiving. So when you get into that game, then what happens is one gives up their human life love to become a non-human fixing, a non-human doing, a non-human pleasing. And they give up the active presence loving themselves for that pseudo-solution. The mind says, oh, look, here, we can do this by forgiving them. No, you can't. You can apply forgiveness to the dynamics inside yourself and remove the stress and remove the unconscious power person dynamic. But letting somebody else off the hook will not do that. The number 4 pseudo-solution, if I could just fix them or myself, which really comes down to, the thought that was brought up for the power person was, I'm not good enough, I'm broken, or they're broken. So if one gives into that pseudo-solution, I got to fix myself or forgive them, and you watch a person who do serial relationships one after another, where the project, as opposed to living as love in the relationship, the project becomes fixing the partner. So when you get into that fixing game, it's related to control. And to give that one up, one becomes a non-human pressuring. The next pseudo-solution is if I could just find someone to love, or someone that, and now you get a non-human faking, because you can't love anybody. Nobody has ever loved you. Nobody will ever love you. You've never loved anyone. You'll notice that what happens when people say they fall out of love, what happened? This person stopped doing things that I approved of. They violated goals I held for them and stopped doing what I approve of, or pardon me, what I was approving of them doing, and now I never want to see them again. Do you think that was a love relationship to begin with? No. It's a pseudo-solution. It's approval masquerading as love. And so that masquerade becomes a non-human faking. If you listen to our Healing Through Relationships workshop, there's a segment in there where I talk about how, this person, having bought the idea from their power person that they were broken, that there was something wrong with them, enters into a relationship with the thought, looking for, what does this person want me to be? I know I'm not worth anything, so what do I need to be? What do I need to do in order to have them love me, i.e. approve of me? And so now one tries to be something that they're not, and they become a non-human faking. Closely related to those last two is if I could just control everything and everyone, and then I could be safe, then life would be okay. That's another one of the pseudo-solutions of the non-being mind. And so if one adapts that pseudo-solution, they become a non-human controlling. The next pseudo-solution is to strain and struggle to make up for a non-being life. You know, you've got to get enough stuff to look good. People validate me, then I know, okay, that message that I was given by a power person is false and that I'm not broken. And for someone who engages in that one, then they become a non-human having and a non-human getting. Their lives are always about getting more stuff, because then that proves that they're not broken. So trying to make up for a non-being life, it's a difficult way to live. And again, it will never solve the problem. The next pseudo-solution, number 8, is if I just could put my pain deeply enough into my brain's image of them, whoever I'm blaming, if I could just convince them that they're the problem in my life, then everything would be okay. And to do that, again, one gives up one's human life, love, to become a non-human blaming. We've talked oftentimes about how by the age of 4 in this culture, most people are card-carrying members of the one world universal religion of blame. It's all somebody else's fault. The next pseudo-solution, wrote the 9 of them now, is to take the easy way. Just stay on autopilot and do the behaviors of the past. Again, in order to engage in that pseudo-solution, one gives up their human life, their experience of themselves as love, to become a non-human suffering and a non-human victim. Number 10 pseudo-solution, it's just this addiction to being right. And when playing out of that, one never suspects self. It's always out there. And there comes the desire to prove that I'm not responsible for this. It's somebody else's fault. See, I'm right about it. Once again, to do this, one gives up their human lives, love, to become a non-human convincing. The next pseudo-solution, number 11, is to obfuscate, to distract, confuse, switch issues. A very popular, form of that, you see it very strongly in the political world today, is, well, you did it too. Well, look, this politician committed crimes. Well, so did that one. Yeah, well, if you're in a relationship where that's the game you play, it's time to stop and say, okay, so I got it. I did something, you did something, but right now, let's pick one and talk about that instead of playing this tit for tat, so we can actually have the hard conversation of cleaning up whatever the dynamic is. So if we're going to talk about when I did it, okay, so let's do that. Or we're going to talk about when you did it, let's do that. But let's not confuse them. If one buys into this pseudo-solution, this obfuscate, distract, confuse, switch issues, they end up giving up their human lives and become a non-human confusing. Like just kick up a whole stink, a whole mess, and then nobody will be able to figure out where the core of the issue is. Distraction. You see that, in a lot of the political stuff going on right now. A crime has clearly been committed, but we'll talk about 1,000 other things and get people so discombobulated and so confused that they won't be able to even think about what the crime was in the first place. So to give up this confusing, convincing, this victimhood, this blaming, this getting, this having, this stuff, this controlling. And then the final pseudo-solution we're going to talk about is to leave, to escape, to lie to yourself, to pretend, oh, I'm not angry, I'm not afraid, and or the alternative to leaving is to get rid of them. And once again, you're constantly on the go, moving from place to place, from relationship to relationship. So one who does that gives up their experience of themselves as love to become a non-human, escaping, a non-human, leaving. So these are the pseudo-solutions, and it can be really helpful if you were brought up in a codependent home to recognize what pseudo-solutions played out by your power person, because they'll tend to be the very ones that you'll play out yourself in your life. So identifying that can be a really key and important part of the healing process. And so that's another chunk of information about the power person dynamic. And Miss Jeanie, I'm just wondering if we've got anybody in the phone queue with a hand up or anything happening in the chat room that we might want to move the conversation in the direction of questions. Great, cool.
And before I turn Susan's microphone on, just remind everybody in the chat room we have Yinka, and so remind everybody that we have the Course in Miracles this afternoon. The link is in the show for today in the notes. And Bob is back with us.
3:30 Eastern Time.
Bob had a reaction to a tick bite, and he's doing all better. And said thank you for the prayers and the concern. Yeah. So I am going to turn Susan's microphone on, and I hope this is working because Aria's tablet went down and my computer went down, and it's just sitting here spinning. So I am not sure.
When we look at, I'll go on with just a few other thoughts around this idea of the pseudo-solutions. When we look at these pseudo-solutions, behind it there's always a goal driving the mind. So the mind does not engage in any kind of behavior that is not related to a goal. And so the goal becomes the key way into accessing the hidden parts of the mind, uncovering, bringing to the presence of love the hidden parts of the mind, and by so doing, the dynamics, the untoward dynamics that have been absorbed from and or created in the presence of a power person dynamic begin to dissolve. And so to start to look in every situation at the goals involved becomes a major key to the healing process. So when I determine who the person is that I'm projecting this reality on, this pained construct of my mind, and I've looked at the dynamics that involve my power person dynamics, and specifically who my power person is in this given situation, then I'll probably have a better chance of being able to determine the exact goal and the motivation behind the goal that's driving my pain perception, and that's a critical component of the healing process. So when I think about this situation that I'm working on, this whole perceptual construct, this whole painful experience is a result of fear and or hostility resonated by this event or my goal for someone. What is it that I want this someone to do? So to clarify what your goal is, ask yourself the question. In this situation, if I were to state the ideal outcome, it would be, and to make sure that you state it in terms of what it is that you want. You know, let's say in a situation where your perception is you're being ignored, the goal wouldn't be, I want them to stop ignoring me, because energetically, that's an invitation for ignoring you to continue. You want to train your mind to move in the direction of what it is you want from the situation. So if I've got someone that's ignoring me, my goal would be that I want them to be there, fully paying attention to me. And then what's the motivation behind that? Well, that's so that, you know, I can feel valuable. That might be the dynamic that's going on in the motivation behind it. Or another example, you know, what would the ideal, always look at stating the ideal outcome, what you want from the situation. And sometimes that can be a real challenge to disconnect from all the times we said, well, I don't want that to happen. I don't want that to happen. No, we don't want that. I mean, you listen. I spend a lot of time when I'm out, you know, when I'm in an airport or what have you, or in a store, and listening to conversations of parents that have with children. And I would say 90% of them are about, don't touch that. We don't want you to do that. Don't do that. No, don't do that. And the whole focus on that, and that. And they wonder why the child does exactly that they're talking about, because that's what's getting all of the energy. So shifting the mind into recognizing what it is that I do want. So what would be the ideal, you know, the goal might be something, let's say it's in a relationship, I want that person to give up all of their autonomy and be subservient so that I can be in control. Now start doing some work around being controlled. That's sort of solution of being in control. Do you feel like someone's not listening? If only they would listen so that I can feel heard. I just want them to cooperate so the job could get done. In each case, looking at what it is that you want. So when you identify that goal, then you can root out and identify the deeper dynamics that you need to be aware of. The more precise the identification of the goal is, the deeper the healing will be.
Michael?
Yes, sweetie.
Okay, I am back on now. And there was
cool.
also a question in the chat room. Yinka says, as Michael was speaking, I realized I do flick between each of these pseudo-solutions. When one doesn't work, I flick to the other one. How can that pattern be broken? If you want to answer that, and I'll click on Susan.
Yes. Let me create a visual for you, Yinka. We're in an intensive at Heartland, and I've done this probably 20 times so far in this intensive. I'll pick up my marker, and there'll be a certain look on my face, and everybody will know exactly what I'm about to say, and everybody will start to laugh, because I'm going to turn to the board, and I'm going to write all of the above. You dig out every tool that you've got. And so when you recognize, and one of the reasons for understanding these pseudo-solutions is to recognize they'll never work. And so what am I going to do? I'm going to go back to the tools that do work. I'm going to step into forgiveness. I'm going to step into doing a power person worksheet. I'm going to step into doing the commitment to myself in the mirror, or to this person that I've got this conflict going on with. I'm going to, each and every one of the tools will be, I'm going to do a worksheet, or maybe I'm going to do 100 worksheets around this issue. So that fits and makes sense. Every tool you've got, and of course one of the key ones is breathe, and pen to the paper on the reality management worksheet.
Awesome. So I've got Susan's microphone on now.
All right. Hey there, young lady. Welcome.
Hello, you two. Man,
hey.
Oh, man. Okay. Great talk, Michael. I wanted to ask you, the part of the patter that Tim Hayes uses of making up another story to prove just seems to go right with alongside the pseudo-solution of being right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the brain is so wily, and the desire to get what we want, I speak for myself, is so huge. It's just the most
That's why
amazing
canceling
thing.
that goal is so important.
I know, but then you find another little teeny goal that's a little different. You tantalize yourself all over again. You think, oh, maybe I can have what I want after all. I just adjust this, and maybe if I do this, and I'm just watching them. I'm just watching things. Jeanie, I wanted to say, your little app, the forgiveness app, is fantastic now. I got up this morning and I thought, okay, get to work. And I was going to start writing, and instead I pulled out your app and bingo, 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 3 very closely related wake-up sheets right away. And it's as if doing those and with the little options of asking a question or having something pop up, it's just the best. I don't know how you did that. And I've already sent it to a nephew of mine I told you about, but I'm going to spread it around. I wish you could make money from it, because paying $2 for it is nothing. And I know you said it's complicated, and you can't set that up easily, right?
Well, what it is if we charge, then both Apple and Google get a part of what we charge, and the payments have to go through them, so they control payments. But just like if you go to the App Store and you buy an app, then whatever your store is, whether it's Google or iPhone or Apple, they control the money coming in, and they get their portion, and then they send you the rest. And it just, and then they go into sending you a 1099 at the end of the year for your income, and, it's just got so many aspects to it. It would, it'd be nice for sure.
Well, that sounds horrible.
I mean, they wouldn't even let me, Apple wouldn't even let me put a donation button, where the app would redirect you to the website to make a donation. They wouldn't even allow that. Google would, but Apple would not.
They become the interloper where they get a percentage of everything you do.
Well, even if they did, my feeling is, okay, so charge $3.99, charge $7. People are, with something like this, I mean, I'm not telling you to do it. I'm just saying this is precious. It's so easy to use, and you get a PDF at the end that you have.
It also is, if it's working right, it will, if you put in, like, George is the object of your attention, then later in the app, when it talks about your object of attention, it will automatically put their name in so that you know what you were talking about, so if you haven't lost it.
Jeanie, how did you do that? And you can't tell us probably, but it's...
Well, I have an awesome tech person who is in India, and when I didn't understand something, he did. And, I'd have to get up at 4 or 5 in the morning to work with him because of our time difference. But, he actually just sent me a note the other day and said, hey, how's things going? Because I haven't asked him to fix something lately.
Oh, well, this was
what I wanted to
say. I failed. Yes, I was able to sail right through it. Nothing blocked continuing or typing or I talk myself into it. I mean, I use a little microphone on the longer answers. What are your thoughts? Blah, 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 blah. It'll take it all. It's amazing. It's just the best. It's like a little traveling journal because, in a regular wake-up sheet, you've got a line or two to put something. If you want to say more, I don't know if there's a limit. I haven't run up against it, and I haven't been extravagant about yakking into each section, but it is fantastic. And I've only been using the top one. I forget what it is, which one it is. But, and I have to say, and this is a true testimonial, I did those worksheets, and I've been very sort of up and down and sideways. And then today I was about to start work, and our Michael came up to me crying. He said, "My dog, you've got to come and see my dog. Something's wrong with my dog." Well, he had something with his hindquarters. He was semi-paralyzed and wasn't doing his business, and he was listless. And Michael doesn't have a red cent. And he said, "I can't afford a vet." And I said, "Michael, animals are a top priority. Just don't think about that. So we took him to one emergency vet, and I love these people, but they weren't open. So we took him to another one, and here's Michael beside me in total hysteria. And I said, "Could you do it yourself?" Because I had a busy day. And he said, I can't. And I thought, okay, breathe. I used all the tools, Michael. Breathe, allow, be curious. And I've had very complicated feelings, as you know, about Michael, which have been ironing themselves out thanks to the tools. It's just this challenge would never have been met on this level without these tools. So I just wanted to thank you for the tools, and particularly this morning, I have a little habit of doing the New York Times spelling bee very early in the morning after I've done my little beginning exercises. And I thought to myself, no, you've got to do a wake-up sheet. No, I don't want to. I want to do my spelling bee. Okay, so your wake-up sheet won out, Jeanie, and it was
all right.
Just all right.
Awesome.
Yeah, I
and it also has.
Yeah, go ahead.
It has the ability to any page that you're on. If you get stuck or have a question, you can just click Ask a Question and do it right there on the app, and then keep going. And there is a game if you introduce it to another person. There's a game on there, Drag-ons and Kling-ons, and it's the things that we drag on and cling on to, and how to get past that. So there's a lot of options, and then there's things that will, like you can access our schedule, you can access news, you can click on more, you can do the commitments. They're all right there.
Amazing. Yeah, well, I haven't even
seen
those. It's a huge adjunct to your work. I trust you have a link on your website to it, right? To get people there if they're on.
And I put the link in there for the notes today too. If you go to that link, there's actually a video, and Yinka actually is the one that prompted us to do that. So we created a YouTube video of instructions of how to navigate the app and how to navigate the website. So that's so you can get that.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Thank you, Yinka.
Yeah. So that's it. The dog, I think, is going to be all right. He's under anesthesia at the moment. He's having what looks like a lesion of some sort, or a huge boil or something removed from near his. Michael uses an unsavory word for it, but anyway, you know what I mean. And we're going to pick him up later. So
we'll hold the space that the dog does well. And Michael, too.
Thanks. Yeah. Meanwhile, we found him a little job, and he went to the job. He said, I can't do the job. And I said, this is your first day on the job, and we don't get the dog till later. Take a deep breath, get in my car, and drive over there, and you sing your guts out. And he said, okay, and he did. He's doing it right now.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you, and thanks for pointing out that, the reminder, on the right-hand side of the worksheet, that once one cancels the goal, to also cancel the goal to be right. That is one of the things that keeps the mind in this cycle of, I'm going to make up another story out of these same brain cells. It's like just to come to the point where I'm ready to be finished with constructs of my mind that have that particular quality. And so always hand in hand with the primary goal to let go of the need to be right and make up another story. It's like, that's just the habit mind. And each time there's one line in the what was called the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic that can be properly translated as, get us out of our habit mind.
Yeah.
And get free of the mind just replicating, and being continuously on guard for, I'm going to keep upgrading my thought system to higher and higher levels connected to love, rather than getting lost in the drone and noise of drama and trauma. Changing habits. It's powerful.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well,
Sweet.
That's all I wanted to say. Yeah, thank you.
All right, young lady, you have a blessed one. We appreciate you.
Thanks. We appreciate you, too.
All right. Okay, blessings. Thank you. And we're down to the last minute or two, and so I'll just, we'll put out the thought one more time, that if you'd like to join us, there is a Zoom link. I'm sure Jeannie's already put it in the notes for today. And if you go to our website, whyagain.org, then you can look under events, and you'll see the Course in Miracles study group that's happening through the book club, Hear My Voice Book Club. It's at 3:30 this afternoon, 3:30 Eastern Time. It's 8:30 in London, England, where the book club meets, but 3:30 here. So come and join us, and we're going to take the next step in Course in Miracles. And beyond that, if you're not using the app, go to your app store, whatever type of phone you have. Type in the words Heartland, Aramaic forgiveness, Heartland, HEARTLAND, one word, Aramaic, ARAMAIC, and by the time you type that, you'll see that red heart come up, and that will allow you to download the app free. It's very private, specifically, very consciously set up so that it requires next to zero permissions. It actually requires only one, and that is for your phone to be able to use the internet to use on the app. Otherwise, unless you print something, if you print, then it asks for permission to print to your hard drive too. But otherwise, that's it. And so we thank you for joining us and invite you to have the best year yet of your